Hello, welcome to Something Positive for Positive People. I'm Courtney Brain. Something Positive for Positive People is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that provides various support resources for people navigating herpes stigma. These are yoga, meditation, restorative yin classes, specifically designed to help people manage the emotions of their diagnosis. We have this podcast that essentially serves as a research tool for uplifting the experiences of people navigating herpes stigma for the sake of integrating them into sex education and STI prevention resources. This intervention program we call stigma minimization. We train and offer workshops for healthcare organizations to learn stigma-free language and communication skills when working with patients in relation to STIs. All right, it has been quite a while since I've recorded a podcast. And let me tell y'all, man, this episode, I'm not really gonna talk about herpes. This is more of an update for everybody who's listening. There is a conference that I'm putting on May 23rd from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Central Time. It's virtual. Everyone should be there. Right now, only healthcare professionals are registering, which is a great sign, but this isn't just for them. And I'm very much concerned that the people who this conference was for aren't gonna really be able to get the benefits of what's required for you to be there. Like we need representation. We need ourselves to show up. And as I'm looking at the email addresses of people who are registering, it's different departments of health. It's people who work in clinics, Planned Parenthood emails, sexual health associations, even the CDC. Somebody put a CDC email in there. So it's great that the organizations are showing up for what's going to be presented at this conference. I have Dr. Eveline Molina Dacker, who serves on the board of Something Positive for Positive People. She is a family physician and also created the Stars Talk that I use to um, tell everyone how to go about disclosing their STI status to a partner, which is really a discussion. So she's going to be presenting on the topic of stigma in healthcare. So her presentation very much is aligned with the healthcare professionals and giving them tools and resources that they need in order to support patients through a diagnosis, giving them understanding of how to take a history, and they'll people will be able to ask questions as well about this process. So it's nice that we have this medical professional representation there. We also have Nikita Fernandez, who is a sex therapist and psychotherapist. She will be speaking to stigma from a mental health perspective. I told you all I started this podcast 7 years ago because people with herpes wanted to end their lives because of their diagnosis. And so as I've been working over the years, learning about the intersection of sexual health and mental health, I finally found someone who is comfortable not only sharing like from a professional perspective, but she's open about having herpes herself. So you'll be able to ask someone who's in that professional setting questions as well about, navigating the work-life balance of talking about herpes and also living with it, especially with clients, because we got to understand like this is a very sort of triggering atmosphere to be in stigma and then also to have to speak about it to somebody else who's in stigma because we can kind of trigger each other, right? And then unfortunately our keynote is unable to deliver the keynote, so I will be now presenting the keynote. And we've also reached out to the No Shame in This Game film, Jolene Hernandez. She's going to show the documentary at the conference. So I have to restructure the schedule a little bit, and also make space for the American Sexual Health Association to have a window of time so that they can make an announcement as well. So I am going through the process of learning what a data analysis is and putting that together in the presentation. This will be the most data driven information that I'll ever have gotten. Unfortunately, Dr. Lex Brown stepped down from the board of directors. But fortunately, she's on to really huge things, and she's now the president of the American Association for Sexuality Educators, Counselors, and Therapists, ASEC. And so, big shout out to her. Like, I'm so proud of her. We're both from St. Louis, or lived in St. Louis. I don't know if she's from there, but we met like pre-pandemic, did a podcast episode, stayed in touch, and she was so supportive being on the board. So I'm happy to see her move forward into other endeavors. So right now, as far as the data analysis goes, I have a new potential board member lined up who's got her master's in public health, and we have to just vote on it. We're going to look at her CV and make sure that all of the board members find her to be a fit. And this is who, along with some community members, right? I put a call out that I needed help. And so I heard from some of the Something Positive for Positive People community members who are in data research, and they're going to help me with formulating and structuring the data in a way that I can present it. So I don't just go up there and talk like I do on the podcast. So this ain't a podcast episode, y'all. This is a conference, like a whole 6 hours of the day conference. And this ain't the only one, given the success that I'm seeing for it now as we go into the public health setting and the STI prevention space, to invite these healthcare professionals, nurses, nurse practitioners, public health people, those who do any STI testing. That's who's coming to this conference. So I'm really excited to see that. But I make this announcement here in this episode because I really want for people who have herpes to attend. And these are opportunities for people to ask questions and get information. And while we're not talking about a cure, we're talking about stigma, right? And I think that stigma, the when we reduce stigma, just let me give y'all an overview of my thought process real quick, okay? When we are able to reduce and minimize the impacts that stigma has on our psychology, on our emotional health, we are able to change the stigmatizing behavior out there. That stigmatizing behavior might be as soon as you're diagnosed, you start taking antivirals on a daily basis, right? So, who's to say that when your stress, your behaviors change because of your views about yourself now that you have herpes or change, who's to say that that won't change your need for utilizing the medication? If you don't need the medication that exists, and I mean, let's be honest, the medication isn't all that great either, then pharmaceutical company sales have to go down, or what needs, or well, that will happen, but what has to happen in response to that is that we get better treatment, that we get something that more effectively reduces the risk of transmitting the virus or passing it on to someone else. Um, we might get a vaccine for people who don't have herpes, who might enter a relationship with someone who does. They can look at, what the data is on it and then move forward. So there's a possibility of that. There's even most base level, uh, the likelihood that we just get better education and that we have a consistent test that just says, yes, you have herpes, or no, you don't have herpes. Simple as that. So that's where the advocacy efforts are right now. And I bring up the conference because this is eating up a tremendous amount of my time. And I am seeing that this is where my time is most needed. I didn't expect to have to like learn how to perform a data analysis or to present the keynote myself. So that kind of suddenly occurred, and that added a little bit more to my plate on top of teaching the yoga classes, running the podcast, the one-on-one support group calls, applying for grants, and I'm also in the process of moving. I will be moving out to the East Coast, New York City, or somewhere close to New York City, like in the New Jersey area. Really, just depending on the availability of a space that's within my budget. And I am going to exclusively run Something Positive for Positive People, and then periodically do the genital exam. So for those who don't know, I used to work as a standardized patient. I still do technically through April. There's a couple of things coming up that I signed up for, but I put my notice in for my job at Oregon Health and Sciences University. university. I was expecting to have to go home to St. Louis for a few months um, to house it, but something happened with that, and I will no longer be doing that. And I'm currently waiting to hear back from yoga therapy school, which this will be an 800-hour program, if I get a scholarship or not. So I was accepted into the program. Now it's a matter of, do I need to pay for it or not? Because that's the deciding factor. It's a very expensive program, and I do believe it's worth the investment. But for running everything as I am now, and then transitioning into this move and only running something positive for positive people, that I need a little bit more stability before I could make any sort of financial commitments beyond just paying rent and the bills and groceries and things like that. So um, I am nervous. I am excited, but I'm constantly being validated that this is the move. This is the move. I hosted a disclosure workshop in person in New York City, and we had 10-ish people who showed up in person. Virtually, we had 26 people online, and then there was a total of 60 people who registered. So that's really good. For perspective, like I put together an event in Portland using the same like format, and one person showed up. And then another event that I promoted, hosted, one person registered, and the cost of the venue and everything just wasn't covered. I was losing way more money than what would have been made as a result of carrying through that particular event. So I'm very much seeing that that East Coast move is the move to be making. And I remember last year, it was last August 2023, when I was traveling. I went to a herpes support group in San Diego in August, and I was still living in Portland. So I went to that. And then I went to New York for, I believe it was the No Shame in This Game documentary showing. And when I was there was also a festival going on in Brooklyn. And I was there and I just felt something. I couldn't really describe it, but I was smiling a lot. I was like talking to people, saying what's up. There's just like this unspoken undercurrent of understanding and peace and unity. And after that trip, I moved, or I didn't move, I got back to Portland. And when I got back to Portland, that feeling was gone. I was like, man, what was that? And as I walked outside and went through my routine, um, I realized what it was. And it was that feeling of connectedness through culture. You know, I'm a black man. I don't know if y'all realize that, if y'all only listen to the podcast, but I was in Brooklyn. I saw a lot of people of color. Like there weren't a lot of white people. Not to say that, there's any issue that I have with, seeing white people, but I just didn't realize how affected it I was, where I am, in being in predominantly white spaces or environments where there aren't people who share like similar undercurrents. And I think that that's what it was. Like on the surface, I am what should I say, well spoken, right? I would be allowed at the I'd be allowed at the, what's the equivalent of the family barbecue for white people? I can come into the business setting. That was wrong. I shouldn't have said that. But no, I that feeling hit me and it stuck with me, and I couldn't unsee it once I saw it. And now I realize just how important culture is. And I think that I know that I've been very lonely in Portland over the last 2.5 years. And I even made an attempt to move back home to St. Louis to alleviate that loneliness. But a friend of mine, AJ, he said this. He said, you ain't gonna never feel at home if you don't feel at home in your own skin. And that hit me, and my environment can be conducive to that. Now, don't get me wrong, Portland, I've been very successful here. I've been able to save a lot of money. I've been able to take care of my health, which I didn't even know I had health issues until I was able to get here, get health insurance, and like learn about diabetes and learn about blood pressure and changed my diet up to the point where I've actually lost like 30 pounds. I didn't even know I had 30 pounds to lose, y'all. But just as a result of taking care of myself and reading food labels and cooking more of my own food and minimizing my portions significantly. Like I realized I was eating enough for like five people and I didn't need to. So I'm feeling good the last 2.5, almost 3 years. I think I've been in Portland. Yeah, since 2021. To be a little bit under 3 years before I head out. So I'm leaving in May. May 2nd. Like I said, I put my notice in at work. My last work day is May 1st, and I'll be doing the general exams at NYU if all goes well. I have to go out there to um, observe and see where I'm at with my training in terms of uh, the way that I've been taught to do it versus the way that they do it. And then I'll be able to start. So I'm really looking forward to that. But more importantly, like I said, this is what I'm doing. I'm running something positive for positive people full time. And this means all those things that I complained about and I've been frustrated about, like with the grant application process. I'm really leaning into those. I'm leaning in heavy. There are no grants that exist at this point in time for herpes organizations. There are resources that exist that can help me with putting this out there and being seen by people who can support us monetarily, who can support the programs. And right now, if you listen to the previous episode, I talked about the 6 programs that we're running: the one-on-one support calls, the yoga classes, the workshops, the in-person community events, the research survey data, the podcast, and then the training for healthcare professionals. So as I say it out loud, I realize I do a lot and I try and downplay it. I try and save face and make things, look a lot easier than they are, but they're not, y'all. This is not easy. um, it is aligned for me, so I have energy to do it. I don't feel myself burning out in any way, shape, or form. But I recognize that I took a little bit of time away from the podcast because the podcast itself, when interviewing people, is easily a 5-hour process between finding a guest, vetting the guest, talking to the guest, making sure they're comfortable with being on the podcast. And I minimize that process by creating an intake form on the podcast tab of the website. So if you are someone who wants to be a guest, you can fill that in and I'll reach out to you as we get closer to that next season. But, or to interviewing people again once I'm settled in. But as of right now, this is what I got. I got to like from 5 hours to 1 hour because I press record. I know what I want to say. I'll say it. I know that I don't need to edit anything that I say. So this is 1 hour for me to do this. And consistency has been so important to me throughout this process. And for the last 3 weeks to a month, I chose to not produce any more podcast episodes because it didn't feel like that was the most revenue generating thing. And right now I need to generate revenue. So the conference is doing that significantly for us. This is very helpful. And while this virtual conference is seeming to attract more healthcare professionals, I'm in the process of cooking up an in-person conference for the fall. It'll be toward the end of September. The theme of it is something about the spectrum of like pleasure and safety, feeling that once we're no longer quote safe, right? Like we can't have safety and pleasure, right? Like when we are about to have sex, someone goes, "Oh, wait, you got to put a condom on." And someone's like, "Man, condoms are no fun." Or I don't like condoms, right? But we want to explore being able to experience pleasure and do so in a way that is safe so that we can really amplify the experience for ourselves and our partners. So that's what I'm cooking up. It's like not on the surface right now, but you as podcast listeners deserve to know that. And I think that this particular audience is, the most engaged, most likely to show up to things. And I really would like to extend an invitation to you all to explore these free events, explore these low cost events, explore things live. I am recording some of these workshops. I'm recording the conference, and I'll make that available on the website, but it's going to be something that you have to pay for. And so, as you see on social media, as you hear in these podcast episodes, as you see on the website and in the newsletter, please, if you have not, please subscribe to the Something Positive for Positive People monthly newsletter. That's where you'll get the updates. You'll see the upcoming events. You'll see the turnout from previous events, and you'll see what's happening right now. You get to see where these donations are going. You get to see what programs are being funded. And I'm using this moment really to just kind of like share with y'all and be real. Like, yo, this has so much potential. Like I get excited and I get passionate. Like I'm like feeling myself like creating tears of excitement, right? The conference is going to be phenomenal. The yoga classes I'm on today, I'll be teaching the fourth class in the cohort of the Letting Go series. And these classes, sessions, I want to call them sessions. Well, no, they're classes because they're groups. So classes are for groups, sessions are for individuals. So if you would like to book an individual private yoga session with myself, you can go to the offerings tab of Something Positive for Positive People, and you can purchase sessions that way. There's a discounted rate for if you buy them in bulk. If you need me to travel to you, I'll do virtual, but I also do in person. So for those who don't know, just like a lot of people don't know, Something Positive for Positive People is a nonprofit. So I have to like reiterate that a lot. I get asked, "Oh, is this a nonprofit?" Like, where does it not say that this is a nonprofit, right? So, as far as the yoga classes go, so in 2021, I got my yoga teacher certification. I started yoga teacher training class in 2020. I was able to complete the requirements for that. And then I went into a 300-hour training and I was able to get that for myself. So I am 500-hour certified to teach yoga. I've been incorporating yoga into the podcast, into the nonprofit, into the support offerings that I have for people, but I've never just broadcast that and taught classes until very recently. So I do get continuing education credits. My own insecurity about teaching yoga classes is a fear of dishonoring or being disrespectful, dismissive, or avoiding the Sanskrit, the history and what yoga is at its core. And that was my own thing. And I realized as I do these continuing education hours that this is my yoga. It doesn't look like Pilates. It doesn't look like, perfect form and poses and wearing Lululemon. It looks like this. It looks like intentionality and action. It looks like detachment and commitment. It looks like honoring the highest truth. And yoga has been super supportive to me since my diagnosis in 11 years ago. Wow, it's been 11 years since my diagnosis 11 years ago. And I live in such a way that I think that if I can put it into um, customize it, customize doesn't feel like the right word, but yeah, I guess that is it. Tailoring it to the experiences of somebody navigating herpes stigma. I think that this can be the most healing thing that we can have right now. The yoga classes that I teach are yin, meditative, restorative, and I do utilize the David R. Hawkins mechanism of surrender, letting go. I talk about some of those techniques throughout the yoga classes so that we can alleviate ourselves from the most harmful impact of having herpes, which is the stigma and the emotions that we fuel the stigma with, right? So, as we begin the process of letting go, what begins to happen is, excuse me, what begins to happen is that those emotions don't have that power over us anymore. And we can use that energy that we have to keep the emotions at bay, to be creative and do other things and be more attractive and have the kinds of relationships that we want and the careers that we want. So I have a yoga tab on the website, spfpp.org/yoga, talking about the benefits of it. And there's on there, there's, I don't want to call it an article, but 8 ways that yoga can help with herpes. And I need to provide some statistics because there are studies about yin yoga uh, and yoga in general on stress management, the neurology, the behavior change. And I think incorporating some of that onto the website will be a major selling point as well. Shout out to Jordan, one of my board members as well, for um, bringing that to my attention. But yeah, it helps with stress and anxiety reduction, and mind body connection, community building. If we're taking classes, it's holistic health. There's a lot of education and awareness even through it. And these yoga therapy sessions, I'm really hoping for this. I'm really hoping for this scholarship, y'all, so that I can begin to offer yoga therapy, which the difference for that is it's a specialized yoga therapy session to provide personalized is the word that I was looking for, support to address a specific physical or emotional challenge related to herpes. And so we've got, we're going to be creating more online yoga resources. So I have 3 classes that are up now. So if you are a member of Something Positive for Positive People, you will have access to those classes. You will be able to take them as often as you need. You can uh, reach out about private sessions as well for discounted rates if you are a member of Something Positive for Positive People. So, and I'll be putting classes up online. Once I'm settled in, I'll be in New York or New Jersey. I still don't know exactly which one of those yet, but once I'm settled in, I'll be able to have a consistent schedule. But right now, I just need to get through this conference, y'all. And so, yeah, another thing that yoga does integration with counseling and support services. So, whatever you're doing on your own, yoga's not taking anything away from that, but it more so can help integrate a lot of what you might already be doing for yourself. So, if you visit the yoga tab, you'll see my credentials, you'll see my Yoga Alliance certification. I have like a little number there to let you know I'm legit. So if there were any concerns about this dude with a podcast now all of a sudden teaching yoga, you ain't got to worry about that. But yeah, I'm still asking for donations. I'm still needing that. I am able to pay myself, and I really gotta. I'm working on this, y'all. It's really hard for me to pay myself because a lot of what I do with the donations that come in, it revolves around getting in front of healthcare professionals. That's the most use of my time. So, or the most effective use of my time. So, since 2019, I've gone to health conferences on a regular basis, networking, communicating with people in that field, and built connections that have turned into speaking engagements for $2,000, $3,000, $5,000. But the thing is, I'm spending that money on getting to the conferences. And so that's how we were able to raise last year $60,000. Now, granted, one of those was a massive donation from one of our board members, Dr. Eveline Dagger. So thank you to her. Shout out to her. But the donations that come in are typically like everything that I do is donation based, and with donation based, I think that I've done a lot of things for free, so I'm not able to do that anymore. There will be offerings and opportunities for people to attend things at no cost. But as far as the support calls go, like I've recently gotten a $10,000 a month grant for Google AdWords. So we're able to run a digital marketing campaign for when people search herpes or something like that. And they find something positive and they find the information and they have questions, they want to reach out, they do reach out. And I have a call with everybody. And this list is running. I have a process for intake forms. When people say they're available, I schedule it, I call them, we talk, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, whatever is needed. And, I say used to because I stopped doing this yesterday, say, well, if you find value in this call, please just make a donation. Consider making a donation to continue to support our efforts. And more often than not, I'll say 7 out of 9 times, people don't donate. And I also have people who miss calls. I schedule it, I block it off. I'll not go to the gym. I'll not eat yet. I'll not do something for myself because I expect, oh, this person said schedule a call. So let me have the call with them, and then they just don't show up. And I get it, we're frantic sometimes in that place, but it's very important that I do respect my time, my energy, and the way for me to do that is to unfortunately put a price barrier there, a cost barrier there. Like you have to make a donation before I schedule the call. That's it. That's it. Um, and this doesn't change anything for people who regularly make donations and like reach out with questions and stuff. Like y'all keep doing what y'all doing because y'all keep the lights on, right? So our operating expenses, and I say this with transparency. Like right now, there's no public record of this kind of stuff because there's just not enough money that comes in for us to have to track it and then be present that to the IRS or anything like that. So um, right now, I think the annual operating expenses are $3,000. So if I were to step away from something positive for positive people, everything that exists right now, in order for it to remain existent, is $3,000. I am setting a fundraising goal to be able to pay myself a sustainable salary to be able to continue to expand on the services. So between the yoga classes, the training of healthcare professionals, the speaking engagements, the support calls, which the support calls, there are a lot of support calls and questions and conversations. The workshops, the conference, the community events, like between all of those things take manpower, they take time, they take people, they take a person. Right now it's just me. I teach the classes, I host the podcast, I facilitate the workshops, I reach out to the people, I try and organize events, I do the marketing, I do the fundraising, I host the calls. That's me. And I'm built for it. I'm not complaining about it by any means. This is a heads up of what's to come as I make this shift into only running something positive for positive people and then teaching genital exams probably like 10 days out of the year. And that's just to have that additional money coming in. Cause I ain't gonna lie, y'all, like I said, I might be excited, but I'm scared. I don't fear, being out on the streets or anything like that. Like I do have people to take care of me, but there is a fear that what if I can't? What if I fail? Right? There's a healthy fear of failure. What if I'm investing in this fully as my purpose, and after doing that, I find out it's not my purpose. What if my purpose is whatever's on the other side of this after it fails, and I got to live with the consequences of that. And that's a real fear. That's a real fear that I have. And I hear every day how great my work is. And even one of the things that brought me back here was I always get this message from somebody. They always say, Courtney, this saved my life or somebody's life that I know. Please don't ever stop doing what you're doing. And I'm like, man, I can't ignore that. I'd be spitting in God's face if I were to ignore that, because it always happens right after I start having those doubts. And while I wrestled with this before the last time, I was like, damn, if this wasn't a nonprofit and I didn't have all these tedious things to do and I only ran this as a business, I would make so much more money. And the reality is that that doesn't align with my values. I really don't believe that there should be a cost to healing. Um, I believe that, and I'm struggling with this. As I'm going through more of the yoga stuff, like even yoga, like should be free, which yoga is free, right? But what costs are, and this is what Sadhguru says. He said the electricity that runs the yoga studio or facility where yoga is being taught, the food that the yoga teacher, provider, practitioner has to have, the shelter, the clothing, the things that come with being able to offer yoga as an exchange. And so when he said that, it made me realize, like, regardless of how I want to help everybody, but I have to do things that cover those things. And here I am right now with a thing, something positive for positive people that can, in fact, cover those things. Like this platform itself is a space where a lot of the things that I ask for donations for and money for, people are able to find on their own for free if they're willing to look at the website and look through it. So I do have to put price barriers on some things, but there are things that will always remain free. This podcast is going to always remain free. Um, the information that exists on the website that will always remain free. But when it comes to the things that require me to give my time outside of where I'm putting it, those things can't be free. So the scheduling of calls, the private yoga sessions, if you need that support, if you need help with disclosing, I am going to ask you for a donation first. I'm setting that expectation now. There are options on the website. If for any reason you are just completely unable to pay or make any contribution, a tax deductible contribution to something positive for positive people to get what people are describing as life saving, life changing, enlightening help, support, resources, then I think you should come back when you are in a place where you can. And I don't like that there wasn't an ickiness to me saying that. I don't like it because it does feel like I'm becoming more of a businessman. And there's somebody I talk to about this regularly. If you listened, and I bet you just had a little chuckle right there and said, "Yeah, you are a businessman." Um, but yeah, I do have to take this. I do take this seriously, but I have to also be mindful that I got to take care of me as well. And so taking care of me looks like putting these boundaries in place, right? Like donate first. There will be plenty of opportunities. Y'all got to keep up. And the best way to keep up is going to be to subscribe to the monthly newsletter on the website. If you don't know how to do that, send me your email and your name, and I'll get you added myself. I will put that time in myself. If you're unable to go to the website and see that pop up that says subscribe to our monthly newsletter, or at the bottom of the page on each tab where it says subscribe to our monthly newsletter, all right? Because that's where you'll be able to find out about the free events that are occurring or the low cost events. Because everything that I do that you have to check out afterwards is going to have a high cost associated with it. And that's just what it is. All right. So I think that that was enough of an update, really. I want to see y'all at the workshops. I want to see y'all at the conference. I want to see y'all at the events, the social stuff. I want to see y'all at the live podcast recordings when we have those. And yeah, the yoga classes. I want to see y'all everywhere. I want to see y'all at everything because this is a community. This is a community that is actively prioritizing its healing. That's what's happening right now. And the more involved we are, the more involved and more engaged and the more expansive we can be. Right. So I'm looking forward to this shift and I feel good about it. Like as I teach the yoga classes, as I do this one on one podcast or this solo podcast episode, um, everything's really coming together. It really is. And for a minute, it felt like it was all over the place, but it's so much more manageable now. Now that I have a streamlined process and I feel confident that there are price barriers that are going to, unfortunately, there might be some people who really need it, who genuinely don't have it. And in those one off special cases, like reach out to me, but generally like the people who pass through come get one time like energy take without making any contribution. Like I have to protect myself from that because I have to protect my community from me burning out and not being able to continue the expansion of what is the go-to sexual health resource for people navigating herpes stigma. People need this, and I feel very confident in my ability to deliver it. So I thank y'all for listening. I thank you for watching. If you're watching this as well, thank you for your membership. You continue to keep the lights on. These monthly memberships are uh, like they are a blessing. Y'all are taking a huge burden off of me because like these were costs that I had to cover. And like I said, like so much of what I do is networking. It's traveling and being around these healthcare providers and letting them know what herpes stigma is doing to people. And sometimes I'm heard, sometimes I'm not, so but thank y'all. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Until next time, I'll see y'all on the other side. Just register for events. The offerings tab and the events tab are going to be where you can see things, but it's most important that you get on the newsletter. Please subscribe to the newsletter. It's a monthly newsletter where I just send out updates. That's all. All right. All right. Till next time.